Happy game day, everybody, and welcome into GameQuest. It's a Volquest game day podcast. I'm Cain alongside Grant Ramey. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single Saturday throughout the regular season. And now it is time for the Citrus Bowl, Tennessee and Iowa, coming up at 1 o'clock on Monday from Camping World Stadium here in Orlando, Florida. We're going to preview that matchup from every single angle. It's got a lot of juice, it's got a lot of intrigue, and can't wait to do that here today at Volquest.com. Do want to give a quick reminder here at the top that on January the 4th at Bridgestone Arena, it's going to be UT night. It's going to be Vols night as the Predators take on the Calgary Flames. Again, January the 4th, Bridgestone Arena. You can buy UT night ticket packages at NashvillePredators.com/college nights. And when you do, you're going to get a limited edition co-branded UT Preds hat so you can wear. So go ahead and check that out again on January the 4th, Bridgestone Arena, the Flames against the Predators for UT night. All right, Grant Ramey, let's not bury the lead, man. This game, it kind of felt like, it was just something to do. It's like, okay, bowl practices, and then the game's going to happen. Then you can go on without the offseason, 8-4, Joe Milton, all this. And then it's like, oh, well, Joe Milton's going to opt out. In steps in Nico, and it feels like there's, from a media perspective, from a fan perspective, feels like this game's going to have a whole lot more eyeballs on it now.
It's a completely different game. I mean, it's a preview of what could be in 2024. It's a kind of a first glance at what Nico could be. It's something Tennessee fans have, they're chanting for Nico in the second half of that Virginia game at Nissan Stadium in September, the season opener. I mean, they've been counting down to this moment since the day he committed in what was it, March 2022. So it's been forever that they've been waiting on it. It's been building up all season long. They want to see Nico here. They want to see Nico there. They want to see extended drives for Nico, time on the field, not just one drive here, two drives there, whatever. Now you got 4 quarters against a really good Iowa defense, a really good test. There's a lot of guys kind of missing on this offense and this defense. It's always going to be a new look team in bowl season in the opt-out and transfer portal era that it is. But it definitely became a 100% different ball game when Joe opted out and it became Nico time.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. I mean, and Brent's written this a couple of times this week. We're in the era of bowl season to where it's about looking to the future. It's about, playing youth and getting kind of a glimpse of what some of those young guys can do for you, or kind of get a glimpse of the next season. And so many guys have entered the transfer portal and have left, and they're not playing in this game, or, opted out when looking at the NFL futures. And so you get an opportunity to not only see Nico, but you get an opportunity to get a good look at Cam Seldon at running back, to get a good look at Ricky Gibson and Jordan Matthews, Christian Conyer, Christian Harris, and John Slaughter in the defensive backfield. Even more of a look at Jordan Thomas. And so, that's really, really exciting. And I think that, for Tennessee, as far as the guys in the secondary, I mean, what a game to open up with, right? You got Iowa that averages 90 yards through the air a game. And so, I mean, they're still on scholarship. You're going to have to be ready for them. But what an opportunity for them, and really for Nico too, because as we'll continue to talk about this defense, a lot of people are saying, well, look at who they play. Look at the opposing offenses they played against. I don't care. 13.2 points per game. It's pretty impressive. They've allowed 14 touchdowns all year. They've allowed 4 rushing touchdowns all year. And so it's going to be a really good test for Nico in his first start for Tennessee.
It's almost kind of like it felt like Tennessee kind of went down the list of what Tennessee fans have been talking about for most of the season. They wanted to see Nico, more of Nico. They're going to see more of Nico. They're going to see a full game's worth. In the Citrus Bowl, they wanted to see more of Dylan Sampson. He was kind of the second or third guy, depending on the game in the rotation. Obviously pretty productive with the touches he got. Now you're going to get him as the lead back, as the RB1. Cam Seldon's a guy that we've heard a lot about and his athletic ability and all the stuff he did in high school. But all you really saw all through the season was a random kick return here or there, whatever. That's all you really saw was that special teams kind of specialist, and people wanted to see the younger guys in the secondary. And now you get a chance to do that. It's not only 1 or 2. It felt like almost the entire secondary, aside from Tank and maybe Gabe Giuliani are in the portal or already gone or whatever. So here you go. You get more Nico, you get more Dylan Sampson, you get these young guys in the secondary. And it's going to be a tough test for that offense and the guys that are having to fill in and step up and kind of make those debuts. It does feel like in the secondary, though, I guess you knock on wood if you're a Tennessee fan that all things go well and it's a good game for Tennessee's secondary to kind of break in and get a head start on 2024, because you don't want to be that defense certainly that gives up points against an Iowa offense that for better or for worse,
Mhm.
every single Saturday. It seems like they're getting laughed at by college football fans on Twitter.
Yeah, and the best player on the team is the punter. And all jokes aside, he's a really good player. I mean, a really good player. And I've written this a couple of times, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast or whatever. But kind of a little sidebar. Jackson Ross came from Pro Kick Academy, in Australia, right? And that is where whatever the punter's name is for Iowa, I should know his name. He's really good. Tory, whatever. He came from there as well, so they know each other. They're friends. He's older than what Jackson Ross is. He'll be going on to the NFL after this game, but I thought that was an interesting connection or whatever. But he's a weapon, and D Williams is going to have some opportunities to try to flip some field and try to alleviate some of that. So that's going to be a storyline in this game. But coming back to Nico here, we've seen him play just so little this season. He's appeared in 4 games. Never taken a first half snap. He's played 52 snaps overall, I believe. He's done a nice job from what we've seen, but I really feel like we haven't seen enough to give us a clear picture on kind of where Nico is. Now, that's going to change on Monday, and of course, there's going to be overreaction, don't get me wrong, but if Nico lights the world on fire, that's great. That doesn't mean he's winning a Heisman next year. If Nico goes out there and turns the ball over a couple of times, that's not great, but that doesn't mean that Nico's going to be a bust or Nico sucks or whatever. So I guess what I'm asking you, what are your expectations for Nico in this football game? Not really asking you to predict a stat line, but what are you expecting to see out of Nico Iamaleava? Because again, it's such an unknown area right now because we haven't seen him play an awful lot. Plus, this defense he's going up against is pretty stout.
Don't try to bring logic into this conversation, okay? Nico's either winning the Heisman in 2024 or we're counting the receipts on all that NIL money, and we're getting every dime of it back if he looks bad against Iowa in Orlando. No, it's going to be – I don't expect a ton because I just don't expect this Iowa defense to give up a ton. And that's fine because I don't think Tennessee's going to have to score a ton to win this game because of that Iowa offense and the brand of football they play and what I mean – people can say what they want about the Iowa defense. Either you're a fan of it or you're not. But they won 10 games with virtually no offense.
Yeah.
Which speaks to just how good this defense can be and how consistent, I guess, it's been in limiting other teams. And they've given up a lot of points to Michigan. They've given up a lot of points to Penn State. Some of those teams kind of rolled up on them a little bit. But I don't expect a ton from Nico. What I'm interested to see is what he looks like after that kind of – all we've seen is little samples of him. 1 or 2 drives here. Just a few plays. I'm interested to see that 3rd and 4th drive. Once you get past that, kind of the newness wears off and he kind of settles in a little bit.
You get past the script, Grant, because I think he's going to look great on drives 1 and 2 of each half because those are, depending on how long they go. I mean, a lot of those are scripted, right? Once you get off script, what does Nico look like?
Right. I want to see what he looks like in that 3rd and 4th drive compared to those first 2, and if he sees the defense any different. He talked about that this week after practice. His coaches have how he's kind of dug into learning about defenses and reading defenses and how much better you have to do it, I guess, at this level than anything he's done in the past where he's relied on his talent. He's just relied on being better than other players in high school football. Now you got to be that much better to go to a different level in college football. So I'm interested to see what he looks like more when he settles in and he has a few drives to adjust and kind of what he looks like in terms of what kind of progress he makes and I guess how comfortable he looks and just kind of how he settles in throughout the course of a game beyond just that script and kind of that sample size.
I mean, Brian Maurer looked really good his first drive against Georgia. You remember that?
I do remember that.
So, again, it's hard. You can't completely script things because, again, you're running tempo. And, I mean, if you have a 10-play drive, I mean, you're not scripting 10 plays usually. So, but there are plans. You do know the first couple of plays that you're going to get. If you get a first down, you're going to attack this, and that's usually what you see on drives 1 and 2, and then kind of from there you just see kind of the game flow and what you got. So I think everybody's intrigued to see Nico. I know I am. I know you are. I know Volquest is. I know Volquesters are, and I really think a lot of football fans around the country are. I mean, look at that class last year that was, touted as one of the better quarterback classes that came out. I mean, a couple of those guys already leaving in the transfer portal. Dante Moore, Malachi Nelson, you got Arch Manning, of course. You got Nico. Jackson Arnold played the other night. He was a highly rated 4-star prospect in this class. A couple others I'm not even mentioning. But we've seen a little bit of some of those quarterbacks. But, this is really going to be the first time we see Nico. So, I don't know. I feel like And tell me if you agree. I mean, I feel like non-Tennessee football fans, if they're able, they're going to be tuned in to watch this game because it's just kind of the Nico effect. Everybody wants to see if the NIL was worth it, if the reported $8 million or whatever it was is worth it. A lot of haters are going to be out there hate watching, but I think a lot of people are going to be watching.
Yeah, I think so because Nico was kind of that first kind of case study on NIL in the NIL era, I guess. Why is
Yeah.
the number one overall player going to Tennessee to play for Josh Heupel when Josh Heupel had only been on the job for however many months? It was still pretty new there. He hadn't had that when Nico committed. It wasn't an 11-win Tennessee football team. It was leading into that fall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think he committed the spring before that. So I think it turned a lot of heads when he committed. I think it turned even more heads when the number was reported by whoever, and I don't know how accurate it was or whatever the case may be, but it got people's attention, and I think now people want to see him. They've waited just like everybody else is, and I think it's for Tennessee fans. Obviously, there's interest, but so much more of it is just the next few years of the Josh Heupel era. Josh has done great stuff at Tennessee the first 3 years, 11 wins in 2022. He could have 9 wins if they win Monday. Against Iowa in year 2, 20 wins in year 3. So 20 wins over a 2-year span. It's pretty impressive. But now I think it turns to the next kind of steps in the Heupel era is how special Nico is or how good he is or what he looks like as a quarterback, how quickly he can kind of reach his potential at this level. The sky-high ceiling, it seems, that's going to be extremely important for Josh Heupel because we've seen what the difference, that Hendon Hooker, Josh Heupel marriage was perfect, a match made in heaven. They couldn't quite get it right with Joe Milton this year, and it didn't move as fast. You need to get back to that guy that can move this offense in the tempo, the speed, going as fast as they went in 2022 and 2021 for most of that season as well. So it's hugely important for Tennessee, I think, but I think there is interest outside of just Tennessee fans too.
We will move on from Nico, although Nico is the biggest storyline in this football game. You know what I know, and that's why we kind of let off with it. Who are some other young guys we're going to be looking after? Plus, what about Iowa? Who does Iowa have? Who should we be looking out for Iowa? And how good is that defense? More on that here to come as we continue on with GameQuest. Do want to quickly remind you once again about the UT night. It's going to be the Preds against the Flames, Bridgestone Arena. That's going to be on Thursday night, January the 4th. So later this week. January the 4th, Bridgestone Arena, Thursday, later this week. Again, it's going to be the Flames against the Preds. It's going to be UT night, and ticket packs for the night include a limited edition co-branded UT Preds hat for alum, students, and fans so you can show off your UT pride while cheering on the Preds. UT ticket packages can be purchased at NashvillePredators.com/college nights. All right, I do want to get into our prize picks section real quick, and it's always a whole lot of fun, and I enjoy doing it. Prize Picks over at PrizePicks.com. An instant deposit match up to $100 on your first deposit if you put in that promo code VQ. So that's what you need to remember real quick. But also you need to remember that you can win up to 25 times your money back this football and basketball season. How do you do that? Well, how do you play Prize Picks? It's all about projections, 2 to 6 players, and Prize Picks will have the projections for their stat lines in this game. And all you do is pick more than or less than. You fill up your grid, again, between 2 to 6 player stat projections, more than or less than. And we're going to show you how to do it like we always do. We are experts selectors here on Prize Picks, and I know Grant Ramey loves to do it. If I can figure out how to share my screen real quick, just one sec. Oh, here we go, present. All right, if you're watching on YouTube, this is what it looks like. As you can see, the Prize Picks screen. Up here at the top, you got all these different sports, but we're going to go to college football, and we're going to go down here to those semifinal playoff games that are happening on Monday. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, but things have changed, and so we're going to kind of revisit these. All right, Grant, let's go. These are rushing yards, okay? Let's go Blake Corum from Michigan against Alabama, 77.5 rushing yards. You're going to go more than or less than 77 in the hook?
More than. I think Blake Corum's one of the best players on that really good Michigan football team, and if Michigan's going to be in that game, I think he needs to go for 100. But it's going to be tough because we saw that Alabama defense up close. It's hard to run against them. I think more than. I'm going 77.5 because I just pick more on every single one of these.
And if you remember, Tennessee got over 100 yards rushing in that game, but it was Joe Milton. Tennessee's traditional run game, which was so good this year, really had no success at Alabama against the Tide, but quarterback-wise, and Joe Milton, he actually did. But Blake Corum, one of the best running backs in the country. Grant says more than, and that's how you do it. You select it right here. You click more than, and we'll find our next selection. Speaking of quarterbacks who can run, Jalen Milroe, this is rushing yards against Michigan, 34.5. You going to go more than or less than 34 in the hook?
More than, because that's not a very big number, and I think Jalen Milroe is a good runner. I think he's a good quarterback, and he's more than just a running quarterback. I think he's got a good deep ball, and sorry, Bill O'Brien, he deserves to be a quarterback and not play other positions.
Yeah.
But I think more than, because it's the big stage, it's a big game, they need him to use his legs to keep this offense going. If they're going to play well and win the football game, I think he needs to be more than 34.5 rushing.
Let's stay here with this game. Let's stay here on the rushing yards. J.J. McCarthy, quarterback. Of course, he's not much of a runner, but this is why I think these are so interesting over Price Picks. The projection here for J.J. McCarthy is 15.5 rushing yards. Grant, all that takes, minus a couple of sacks. You don't want to get a couple of sacks, but all that takes is one, just rush up the middle and you get a quick 17 easily, right? That number's so low. So for J.J. McCarthy, rushing yards, is it more than or less than 15.5?
See, this is the okie doke where it's the smallest number possible on the board, and you're thinking I'm going to say more because I do agree that it could just be one broken play. And you get it done, barring sacks and lost yardage in sacks, tackles for loss. But give me less because I got to change up. I can't go more all the time. I got to mix it up.
Can't go more all the time. Plus, you got to remember as well, sacks, will hurt the quarterback's rushing yards. So obviously, if there's a couple of sacks, and that's going to take into account too. We'll go right back here to J.J. McCarthy. Michigan, primarily a running football team. Is J.J. McCarthy good enough to win Michigan in the national championship, at least to play for a national championship? Here in the semifinal game, Prospects has him projected at 188.5 passing yards against Alabama. You going to go more than or less than for J.J. McCarthy passing at 188.5?
I got to go more than because I just went less than 15.5 rushing. So if he's going to produce, it's going to be through the pass game, and he's got to produce for Michigan to be in this game. I think Michigan's going to show up. I think they're going to play well. I don't know if that means they win the football game, but I think they're going to look like they belong.
So let's do one more. Let's go to the nightcap here, the semifinal games, Texas and Washington. We did both passing yards for Michael Penix and Quinn Ewers last time we did Price Picks. Let's only look at Quinn Ewers. That number's gone down since last we talked. All right, that number now is sitting at 293.5. Quinn Ewers, is he going to do more than or less than 293.5 passing yards?
Do we have any idea what the number was before?
I want to say it was like 303, man. I want to say it went down 10. Don't quote me on that, but like we did this show, 2 or 3 weeks ago? I feel like
right.
I feel like he was at they were both over 300. So I don't know, but I feel like it's gone down by 10 or 15.
Somebody go back and clip the audio because I have no idea what I predicted on that, and I have no idea what the number was previously. So I'm going to go less than, even though I might have 3 weeks ago gone more than. I don't even remember because I've slept since then. Less than.
All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, this is all it takes, right? Here's your 2 to 6 player stat projections. You pick more or less than, and then you place your entry and you watch your winnings roll in. Again, that's over PricePicks.com. That's at PricePicks.com, promo code VQ, PricePicks.com/VQ, an instant deposit match up to $100. Have a whole lot of fun for the rest of this bowl season, basketball season, and through the NFL at PricePicks.com. All right, welcome back in here to GameQuest. Tennessee and Iowa squaring off in the Cheez-It Citrus Bowl down here in Orlando, Florida. Grant Ramey, we talked a whole lot about Nico Iamaleava, obviously, in the first part of the podcast, but some more of those young freshmen, those young guys we're going to see play an awful lot. Jalen Wright declaring for the NFL draft, opts out. Jabari Small declaring for the NFL draft, opts out. Everybody wanted to see Dylan Sampson, like you mentioned earlier, right? Well, he's going to be RB1, but Cam Seldon is coming in. He's going to get a lot of run as well. And this is really intriguing more so than just a normal football game. Iowa's defense is really good. Its rush defense is top, 6 or 7 in the country. This is going to be a really big challenge for both Dylan Sampson and Cam Seldon because when Tennessee this season has been at its best, it's been running the football really efficiently.
Everything we've seen from Dylan Sampson has pointed to give this dude more carries and give this dude more. Get the ball in this dude's hands in space. Do whatever you got to do because he's been that productive. I mean, what was it, the UTSA game in back September where Jalen Wright didn't play a ton, Jabari Small didn't play a ton. I can't remember if there was injuries involved there. What happened? They didn't have a ton of carries, and it became kind of the Dylan Sampson show. And he had like 11 for 139 or something like that. You go back to that Virginia game, the 4 touchdowns he had, 3 rushing, 1 receiving.
Fourth quarter against Kentucky, he took over.
Right. That was probably one of the biggest kind of sequences of the season in terms of give the ball to this guy and he's gonna melt the clock for you.
I wrote about it. No big deal. Yeah, I wrote about it. Top
No
moments.
big deal. Listen, I've slept since then, as we covered in the Prize Picks segment. And with Cam Selton, I'm really interested to see. Joey Halsey talked about it Friday how he's not just an athlete who's trying to get by on being a really good athlete. And I'm going to get the ball and I'm going to run faster than you. It's more of reading defenses and reading the line of scrimmage and reading blockers and pressing blocks and leverage and all that stuff and kind of how much he looks like a true running back because he's going to be an extremely important piece in 2024 because you have Dylan Sampson, you love what you've seen from him, but you need running back depth and you need that number 2. And we've seen this season and past seasons how much they rotate there and how much they can get production out of different guys. You're going to need more than just Dylan Sampson moving forward. And I think Cam Selton's a very interesting piece. Just as, obviously Nico gets the headlines, but it's going to be very interesting to see what he looks like. And we haven't really seen him at all to this point, really, except for, from some final series in the final couple minutes of 59-3 against UConn or whatever games like that. So I'm really excited to see what he looks like.
And you're old on the offensive line. At the time of this recording, again, you guys know things change a mile a minute. So if it changes, I'm sure there'll be a thread on there bashing us, but it is what it is. John Campbell, we'll see if he plays. I would assume that he's probably not going to play in this game. Still banged up, an ankle deal. So that would be Gerald Mincy starting a left tackle. Dane Davis would be your right tackle. No Javonte Spraggins. That's going to be Jackson Lampley. Cooper Mays will be back at center. You'll have Ollie Lane at left guard. So sure, it's a mixed bag on the offensive line, but it's still veteran players who know what's going on. You're not young there, if you know what I'm saying. You're young at receiver. Dante Thornton's not playing in this game. Of course, Brew's not playing. You got Ramel Keaton. You've got Squirrel White. You've got Nimrod and Webb. And so you're really young on offense, more so than anything. So real quick, I want to get back to Tennessee in a moment, but you brought up the Friday press conferences and complete sidebar here. We stayed for Iowa's, pressers, and they brought in, offensive coordinator, captain, defensive coordinator, captain. As we all know, Brian Ferentz is going to be essentially fired at the end of the season. It's a big hoopla up there. Kirk did not fire him. Kirk did not want to fire him. The interim AD got advisement from the president of the university to essentially fire him. And it's been this whole weird, awkward thing. But he's, this happened back in October. Coached the rest of the season, coaching the bowl game, and then he's going to ride off in the sunset, essentially. So he was not scheduled to speak at the press conference. It was going to be the tight ends coach. Well, Brian Ferentz comes in, and apparently this is the first time that he's been in front of media since all this has gone down. So, and I didn't know this. We're sitting there, in the Iowa media are just peppering him with just questions about what's going on. It was so super awkward, and the player that was sitting there was just kind of like, what am I doing here? But I don't know, man. It was a weird situation. But you might know more of this. Wasn't there like stipulations that had to be met? Like Brian Ferentz's offense had to score like 26 points a game, or he was fired.
I was thinking 25, but something in that neighborhood. They had to average 25, 26 something points a game. They put it in his contract. If not, he was going to be fired. I don't know what they averaged or how close it was, or if it even matters because what's done is done. But yes, I did. I googled his name, and the first thing that came up, and this was Friday right after the press conference, was Brian Ferentz breaks 4 months long silence and meets with reporters or whatever. So that sounds like a very fun situation to deal with.
I'm like, why are we asking them these questions repeatedly over and over and over again? Like, you guys have had all season long. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute, Eric, let's think about this. They probably haven't seen him. So that's why they're peppering, because we would do the same thing. So it was really bizarre. Also, you said you didn't know what they averaged. I got him right here. Offensively, in 2023, there's good reason for his ousting. 16.6 points per game. Let's play a game, Grant. Close. Where does that rank? There's 130 FBS football teams. Where does that rank?
I think last, based on what I Googled when Tennessee got matched up with Iowa, whatever it was a month ago,
127th.
out of 133. Is that what you said?
133, 130, whatever it is, it's
So
127. Now these stats on my notepad are back from December the 4th or 5th, a month ago. Total offense, 238.8 yards on average of total offense. Grant, where does that rank in FBS football programs?
I'm going last again. Is it last? Give me a last.
That is dead last.
$1, Bob.
That is
$1,
dead
Bob.
last. They're 127th in passing. They're 107th in rushing. It's abysmal. So you flip the complete opposite. You look at their defense. Fourth scoring defense in the country at 13.2 points per game. Fifth in total defense at allowing 274 yards per game. Ninth in passing defense at 172. 13th in rushing defense at 102. Again, it's like the tale of two different ball clubs. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to bring that up. But we mentioned Cam Selden, the young guy. Let's flip the script over. Let's talk about that secondary. Ricky Gibson, I'm excited to see him start and play, more than a handful of snaps. I mean, I don't know if he'll play 70. But also, you got Gabe Jeudy-Lally on one side. You got Ricky Gibson on the other. You're going to see Jordan Matthews. You're likely going to see Christian Conyer. Jordan Matthews and Christian Conyer, we really haven't seen at all. We've seen a little bit of Ricky Gibson, but what an opportunity it is for those guys to go up against an offense that is not as explosive, especially not explosive through the air, going up against a quarterback in Deacon Hill, who, again, came in for an injured transfer that they got from Michigan in the offseason. He's completing 49% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on the year, and averaging 91 yards through the air. Again, it's kind of a lose-lose situation to where if Tennessee locks him down, well, duh, you're supposed to. If Tennessee doesn't, yikes. But what a great opportunity for these young guys going up against this passing attack.
Is it bad when I hear great defense, no offense? I think of Tennessee basketball and the complaints I've read over the last 9 years. I mean, it's not to that degree. Tennessee does have a defense that would
I mean,
compare.
Grant, you would know more than me. Like even in those horrible years, I mean, they were still ranked 36th, 37th in Ken Palm offense. I mean, it was never
like 60th, but 60th in the bad years. But and the funny thing is, Iowa basketball, all offense, no defense. That's the funny contrast between basketball and football. It feels like, or it seems like to me, outside looking in at Iowa. It's going to be, and you look at Iowa's offense, and traditionally, what do they do when they do have success? They somehow churn out tight ends to the National Football League like crazy. So you'd assume, I know they're injured and they're down a couple guys at tight end. They don't have everybody there, but you would assume they would still be able to do something with the tight ends because they've been so consistently productive, it feels like, over the last few years. So I think it's a great opportunity for these young DBs to settle in, to get that game experience. I think it's going to be a kind of a big game atmosphere a little bit. It is a bowl game, and they're just kind of whatever these days. It is what it is. But it does feel like a big opportunity for a lot of young guys on both sides of the ball to settle in and to kind of get a head start and kind of, get that newness off and kind of adjust and in game and get a lot of run and kind of just settle in and find a comfort on the field that you don't really want to be trying to find in August and September. I mean, start that now, start that process now. I think that's why, obviously, a 9-4 season is a lot different than an 8-5 season. You want to win this game, but it's just more than anything, it's a big opportunity for a lot of these guys to kind of get a head start on what 2024 might look like.
Yeah, no doubt. And you mentioned the injured tight ends. Yeah, they're down their top 2 tight ends who are really good. I mean, they're NFL tight ends, and they're not playing in this football game. So down to 3rd, 4th, and 5th string. And as Aaron Beasley said, hey, they're going to run a lot of 13, a lot of 12 personnel. And for you football minds, that means a lot of tight ends and only one running back. So it's Big Ten football. It's 1990s SEC football. It's what you grew up, watching and loving, right? Nowadays, it's like Stone Age. Nobody does that. So It's going to be exciting. But they're down their top 2 tight ends. Their cornerback Cooper DeJean is going to be out. He's injured. They don't really have any opt-outs. They just have, and of course, the quarterback. He's Cade Matt. What's his name? I forgot.
McNamara.
Yeah, Cade McNamara. Of course, he got hurt like in game 5 or whatever. So they don't really have any opt-outs. They just have some injured guys. Um, Certainly not dealing with the transfer situation like Tennessee is. So they're about as full strength as they've been here lately. And so it's going to be a good test for Tennessee. As we kind of end this show, man, what are you expecting in this football game? If Tennessee's going to win, give me a couple keys of the game, and what are you expecting to see here on a Monday afternoon in Orlando?
I mean, keys to the game are Nico. That's what everybody's going to be looking at. It's what everybody's going to be focused on. It's what is going to drive the Tennessee offense. Obviously, they're going to have to run the ball, and they're going to have to be able to run the ball consistently and productively and take some of the weight off of Nico, because it's Nico and it's Chaz Nimrod and it's Caleb Webb. And, there's not a lot of – there's obviously Squirrel Whites out there and Ravel Keaton and all that stuff, but you need to be able to run the football and lean on that to help your young quarterback settle into his first start. So, obviously, all the attention is going to be on Nico. But that run game has to produce and has to do it consistently to help this offense stay on the field, because that's what we've seen has been a killer, is those quick 3-and-outs. It's 3-and-outs suck, but when you go 1,000 miles an hour like Josh Heupel wants to go, it hurts even worse when you go 3-and-out in 15 seconds. So stay on the field. Don't have your defense on the field the entire game. Defensively, get off the field. Make this Iowa offense look like the Iowa offense that it's been for the 12 games this season. I mean, I don't know how many points Tennessee's going to have to score to win this game, but you don't want to be that defense that gives up a ton of yards, a lot of points in context, I guess, to Iowa's offense and the production or lack of production they've had this season.
Man, Iowa's been really good against the run. Again, allowed only 4 rushing touchdowns all year long. Tennessee's been a kind of a mixed bag, right? You've had not good enough quarterback play throughout. You've had mediocre quarterback play. At times, you've had good quarterback play, but it's never been as consistent as you want. But Tennessee's always, for the most part, top to bottom, been a good running football team this year. In games where you were lost, in games where you did lose, you couldn't run the football efficiently. And that's my worry, because you're down a starting right guard. You're down a starting left tackle. You're taking your injured right tackle and flipping him to left tackle, which he's more comfortable with, but still, he's not 100%. Your NFL running back, Jalen Wright, is not playing in this game. A career 2,000-yard rusher, Jabari Small, is not playing in this game. So there's a lot of unknowns. That's not to say Tennessee can't run the football. I'm just saying that's what gives me a little bit of pause. I'm excited to see how Tennessee runs the football against Iowa with this group, because I still think it can be done, but it does give me a little bit of pause going into the game. So my keys, like yours, run the football, make it easy on your freshman quarterback. He's going to make mistakes. For Nico, don't make the same mistake twice. If you make a bad read, don't misread that again. If you make a poor throw, you're probably going to make another poor throw, but don't put it in harm's way. If you do make a mistake, make it going full speed. Don't second guess yourself. I think this will be big for him as well to make plays off platform, throw out of the pocket, extend the plays. We've barely seen Nico play, Grant, but when we've seen him play in the orange and white game, I believe it was UConn game, there's been a couple other situations. He's made a couple really nice plays, extending, getting out of the pocket, and either running or throwing the ball downfield.
Was that Nico in the orange and white game going to the sideline that threw to Ethan Davis?
Yes.
Ethan Davis had that really good catch. I don't know if that was the play Ethan got hurt on in the spring, but that was
It wasn't, but that was a beautiful play.
Yeah, you talk about off-platform and throwing on the run. Yeah, and with Nico, I want him to let it rip. Like, don't be cautious. Don't tiptoe into this thing. Just let him go. Like, if you feel comfortable asking him to do the stuff you've been doing all season, or the stuff that Josh Heupel has traditionally wanted to do, taking those deep shots that we've seen the last couple of years, just go at it. Like, forget letting him settle in. Just governor off and let him have fun out there. And he's going to make mistakes. So what? He's going to get an opportunity to play through those mistakes, and that's going to be good for him as well. But I say let it rip with this kid. Let's see what he's got.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you as well. Let it rip. It's easy to let it rip when you're running the football, though. So, run the football. Defensively, just get after it, right? I mean, just play your game. I completely agree. You don't want to be the team that's like, man, Iowa's defense is so bad. But that game against Tennessee, boy, I mean, Deacon Hill, he threw 5 touchdowns all year. He threw 4 in that game. You don't want that. Just get after it. Play a lot of guys up front. Get after the quarterback. I think you win those one-on-one battles on the edges. We'll see if Omar Norman Law plays in this football game. At the time of this recording, I would I would say it's unlikely, but again, things can change. But Tennessee's also going to be down Tyler Barron, but you got Amari Thomas, got James Pierce, got Joshua Josephs. I mean, you got a lot of guys that can get after it. Excited to see what these young guys do, but play your game. Be aggressive at times, and don't be afraid to go play some man coverage, because I think Tennessee can match up better in man against Iowa than a lot of teams in the SEC. So I'm intrigued to see it, man. What do you got? Give me a score prediction and give me a bowl prediction for the Citrus Bowl.
Tennessee 27, Iowa 12. I don't know how they get to 12. I don't know why I picked 12. Hopefully, so nobody else predicts it when we go to write these on the website, even though this recording comes out after the time that all those. But anyway, 27-12 predictions. Nico 250 total yards, 3 total touchdowns. Does that math that up with my score? Yes, it does. And a Tank McCullough pick, just for old time's sake. Start number 51. The old man gets to attack a tight end. Maybe he's coming downhill and picks one off. I don't know.
I love that. I've been thinking, so the total, I believe, I don't have it in front of me right now, which is really bad.
It opened at 36.5, I think.
Yeah, and I think
it was tied for the lowest of any bowl game.
Shocker. I think, Tennessee overall is scoring. Now, it did lead the nation in scoring in total offense last year, but it's down 16 points per game to where it was last year. And then you're playing Iowa. Let's say it's still at 36.5. Maybe it went down a little bit because Nico's playing. I don't know. But say it's still at 36.5. I think Tennessee, I'm taking the under here in this game. I really am. We don't like unders, but I'm taking the under. I've been thinking 21-24, like Tennessee score, either 24 or 21. So I'll go 21-13. So I'll go 21-13. I just think that you're not going to see an abundance of points, but you don't need to see an abundance of points to win this football game. Just so many unknowns with it at running back and at quarterback and on the offensive line a little bit. There's a lot of unknowns where I think it's not going to look great, but I think it's going to be good enough and something to build on. And hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully Tennessee goes out and scores 45. Give me 21-13. Tennessee wins. Give me Cam Seldon scoring 2 touchdowns. This is going to be the Cam Seldon, welcome to the show party, all right? He is a bigger body going up against a tough, big front seven, Big Ten front seven. I think that this kind of is his game, kind of his fit of a game, if that makes sense. Give me Cam Seldon, 2 rushing touchdowns. And I'm not going to lie, you took my Tank McCullough. I was going to give the senior a nod there.
Oh, no.
Give me Aaron Beasley playing like the Aaron Beasley of earlier in the season. Give me Aaron Beasley 10-plus tackles on defense in his final game in the orange and white.
Orange Bowl Aaron Beasley. Something about Aaron Beasley playing bowl games in Florida.
A couple sacks, like 11 tackles. Oh, yeah, he was incredible. I think it's safe to say that we're all a little bit more excited for anytime you get to watch football, especially this one, this is the last football game we get to cover and watch, for another year. So we're looking forward to it. But, with the opt-outs, with the opportunity for these young guys, and of course with Nico Iamaleava, it's appointment television. And I think we're both really excited to see what happens.
I've got a hot take. Are you ready for it?
Oh, please.
Cheez-Its, I don't get the hype. What's going on there? Are you a fan? Sorry, Cheez-Its, I'm not trying to offend. I'm sure you put on a great bowl game, but just never been a fan.
I can't tell you the last time I had a Cheez-It. So, it's not like they're bad. I don't buy them. I don't really eat them now.
See, my kids eat them and my wife eats them, so we give our money to Cheez-Its. So don't get mad at me, Cheez-Its people that I'm sure are listening to this podcast. I don't know. Like the Outback Bowl, 20 whatever year that was, Northwestern, Raymond James Stadium. You go in New Year's Day, a couple hours before kickoff. They've got prime rib up there. They've got a bunch of Outback food just laid out. If I get in this press box today and there's Cheez-Its everywhere, it's bad news for me.
That's going to happen. There's going to be Cheez-Its everywhere.
I know. I'm setting myself.
And there's probably going to be, which leads me to the next point. There's probably going to be some leftover Pop-Tarts. I don't buy Pop-Tarts either.
No.
But
I'm on the other side of Pop-Tart Bowl.
But I do love Pop-Tarts. I just never buy them. I don't really eat them. I don't eat a lot of breakfast. I love Pop-Tarts. Big fan of Pop-Tarts. So if there are Pop-Tarts in the in the press box, remember Camping World Stadium, it's the same place as the Pop-Tart Bowl, which is the former bowl name of, what was the Pop-Tart Bowl used to be known as?
Champ Sports Bowl, way back in the day when Champ Sports was a thing?
We think it was the GoDaddy. We talked about it earlier today. We think it was the GoDaddy.com Bowl.
I think it was originally the Champs. It was the Champ Sports Bowl at one time, I think, because
you might be right. You might be right.
Back when there were stores in malls and people left their house to shop and stuff like that. That was a good store, Champs, back in the day.
Who does that? I'm about to buy you a microphone by, not leaving the house. Who does that anymore? All right. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
I've got another controversial take on Pop-Tarts. You don't toast them, you microwave them like 5 seconds. Boom.
Really?
I've told people this. It's got an intense reaction. People don't like it. There's a lot of vitriol when you tell them you microwave your Pop-Tarts. It's great. Just do it.
Well, you obviously know that we had a Pop-Tart night at Lindsey Nelson during one of the midweek games this past season, and
I do remember
me, Ben, Mike, and Noah, and Ryan, and Troy, and Sean. A bunch of us. And, we're just sitting here and we're tasting and we're categorizing and we're seeing which ones come out, the best. Love strawberry. Was never a big fan of the s'mores, but honestly, the s'mores was not half bad. I'll tell you what's really good, and I haven't had it since. The cinnamon.
Well, yes, cinnamon, yes. Cinnamon,
yeah.
Better than the s'mores. S'mores gets all the hype. I saw some strawberry slander during the Pop-Tart Bowl on my Twitter feed, X feed.
Not right here. I love me some strawberry.
Not from you. I'm looking at you, Joe Rexroad. Specifically, I remember seeing a tweet from him about strawberry slander.
It's Bougie Joe?
Yeah, strawberry's the classic. People got to relax. Strawberry's the classic. It's not overhyped. It's just the standard. The standard is the standard, as
yes. Mike
Tomlin says and Tim Banks says and everybody else says. That's the standard.
Soon to be Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Tomlin. No, I can only wish. Bougie Joe does not surprise me whatsoever that he doesn't like the standard in Pop-Tarts. All right, we will see if we get Pop-Tarts. We'll get some Cheez-Its, but more importantly, we'll see what Nico Iamaleava looks like for Tennessee. Kickoff's going to be at 1 o'clock. We've got so much coverage all day long right here at Volquest.com. During the game, we got the game thread. Come hang out with us. Nobody will lose their temper. Nobody will have unrealistic expectations. It's cool, calm, collective group of people. Come hang out with us and stay with us through post-game coverage as well over here at Volquest.com. Final football game here for this football season, and we'll talk about it all. Tennessee and Iowa, Citrus Bowl over at Volquest.com. Big thanks for joining us here on the GameQuest podcast.